Seeing the city lit up at night, the news on TV is anything but cheerful. Right off the bat, an ambulance cuts through the streets, delivering some disappointing updates. It's clear the South Korean hunters totally bombed their attempt to clear a level 6 gate. Instantly, the internet goes ballistic with criticism, and the crowd flips out about next year's international competition. Reading the comments, some hunters complain they make less than these so-called failures. But right in the middle of it all, someone drops a truth bomb, saying they still need to trust the new guys. At that moment, we meet Seo-yeol, the head of the rescue department, his eyes glued to his phone. Closing the screen, the young man simply says the hunters will have to solve this problem on their own. Inside the vehicle, his older colleague tells him to focus on the current emergency and asks why the kid is so uptight. Straight up, our MC states that guild hunters are all the same, and the rescue team always gets the blame. Just the typical complaint of a public servant, and the team's situation isn't exactly the best. Basically, they're part of an organization of mid-level Awaken. With 3 total divisions, the corporation focuses on vanguard, surveillance, and rescue. Daily, these warriors risk everything, diving into gates to save both civilians and entitled hunters. Fortunately, our boy's main position has a very specific and lethal focus. With his eyes glowing with power, he acts directly as a seeker. As the team's main set of eyes, the role demands absolute concentration on the environment. Moments before the mission begins, the rescue team was getting ready in front of the red gate. Clapping his hands, the leader gets everyone's attention to focus on the main objective. The agents quickly set up their defenses, fully aware that any slip up inside could be fatal. But then, out of nowhere, a cynical suit shows up, praising the rescue team's hard work with a tone dripping with sarcasm. Filled with disgust, our MC thinks about the guy's complete and utter nerve. Since it's Baek Jun-won, an executive from the major guild Overcross, the mood gets heavy right away. Unfortunately, this petty old man is famous for sending weaker guilds to their certain doom inside dungeons. With his mind focused only on money, the suit couldn't care less if people live or go on to the great beyond. Wasting no time, the rescue leader states that the situation is urgent and tries to cut him off. Cynically, the executive offers his guild's help, implying the team couldn't handle it alone. With fire in his eyes, Seo-yeol throws it right back in his face that the current incident is exclusively the old man's fault. Refusing any support, our young MC makes it clear they do their own work without needing any handouts. Letting a sadistic smirk slip, the villain mutters that it's a shame as the heroes enter the danger zone. With a sly grin, the suited executive knows the worst is about to happen. Inside the gate, a dark, rainy jungle hides the survivors in a state of total despair. In tears, a girl holds her injured colleague, who is emitting the green light of an emergency signal. Surrounded by bizarre monsters, she screams for the creatures not to finish off her partner. Completely panicked, the young woman no longer sees any hope of getting out of there alive. Raising its brutal claws, the beast from the shadows prepares to deliver the final blow. In the sheer terror of the moment, the survivor closes her eyes and just waits for the deadly impact. Suddenly, an extremely fast blur zips across the dark scene, breaking the wind. Landing a devastating blow charged with lightning, the creature is sent flying violently. Arriving in the nick of time, the rescue team forms a human shield between the beasts and the victims. Worried about the situation, our MC approaches and asks if the girl is in one piece. Full of confidence, the boy declares loud and clear that the rescue squad has finally landed. But the peace lasts only a few seconds as the leader shouts our seeker's name in alarm. Soon, goals will be popping up like roaches from the main route, so the chief orders him to find another exit and get out of there fast. Without a second thought, Seo-yeol's eyes glow an intense blue, activating his special magic. Through his silent wave ability, his magical aura sweeps across the dungeon floor. Focusing purely on his hearing, the young man maps every tiny sound in the dark environment. By mapping the entire structure of the labyrinth through vibrations, he gains an insane advantage. Like a human radar, the 3-dimensional layout of the place forms in the MC's mind. Easily, the perfect, monster-free escape route lights up in his tactical thoughts. Happy with his discovery, the boy informs his boss about the clear path, earning a proud compliment from the leader. Scared and confused, the survivor is pulled into the action without really understanding the plan. In a mad dash, the team pushes forward, breaking through everything in their path in a desperate sprint. In the middle of the chaos, the rescued girl doubts if that sinister path is really safe. Right beside her, the Vanguard leader explains that their seeker is just a D-rank hunter. However, the kid's detection skills are simply first class in the entire country. Furious with the intrusion, a bloodthirsty ghoul attempts a surprise attack from the side. With a brutal strike, the leader smashes the monster's skull without even slowing down the sprint. However, the chief himself is losing patience and asks if Seo-yeol's route is really on the level. After all, the cursed beasts just keep multiplying around every dark corner of the path. With precise cuts, the team forcibly carves a path, tearing apart any creature that jumps at them. At the rear of the formation, the heroes fight fiercely against the incessant swarm of creatures. After taking down another goal, our MC swears up and down that the exit is this way. The problem, however, is that the beasts have also figured out the rescue group's destination. Normally, ghouls are too dumb to think tactically, unless a necromancer has taken mental control. Thanks to his sixth sense, the boy notices the bizarre gaze he'd felt before and confirms his suspicion. Suddenly, a pillar of purple energy erupts, cracking the stone floor of the dungeon. From within the magic, a gigantic circle opens up, revealing the dungeon boss accompanied by his troops. Shocked by the enemy's overwhelming pressure, the team leader gulps, sensing the danger. Yelling, our young MC warns everyone about the deadly magic trap set on the floor. Desperate, he reaches out his hand and tells the entire team to jump out of the circle immediately. Fast as lightning, the boss launches a grotesque, sticky whip toward the heroes. Unfortunately, the tip of the attack wraps right around the rescue leader's leg. With no way out, the colleague realizes it's the end and yells for Seo Yol to forget about him and save the civilians first. Pulled violently backward, the chief disappears into the dark mist, leaving the team in an absolute crisis. In a desperate leap, our MC lunges forward, covered in lightning. As he touches the ground, a purple barrier traps his movements. The system immediately alerts him to the speed restriction, and the boy groans in pain. Screaming, the young man promises to get everyone out of there quickly. However, the vanguard leader tells him to stay back. Aware of the imminent danger, the chief orders him to take the civilians and flee. With a look of defeat, the veteran accepts his own end. Filled with anger, the colleague just apologizes for the tragic situation. Quickly, the survivors run toward the exit of the hall. With a smirk, our young MC tells them not to treat him like he's already gone, because he has no intention of kicking the bucket. At that moment, the beasts surround the boy inside the magic trap. From the shadows, the necromancer deduces that the hunters were planning to play games from the start. Consumed by hatred, Suyol faces the enemy head-on. Finally, the true threat emerges, revealing Karakul, the dungeon boss. Full of mockery, the villain confesses his surprise at their escape and asks how the kid knows the temple so well. Holding his ground, the boy suggests he'll tell the secret if the monster lets him live. But the villain ignores the offer and attacks, saying he just needs to turn the young man into a gull. With a quick dodge, our MC leaps to escape the fatal blow. Dark claws slash through the air exactly where the hero was seconds before. Far from the impact, the kid is still trying to recover from the shock. Suddenly, the system warns that his vitality is dropping, and the young man screams in agony from the curse. In his mind, he wonders if he should have begged the guild hunters for help to get out alive. He quickly dismisses the idea, as he hates mercenaries who only think about money. In a reality overrun by beasts and unjust ends, cash always talks the loudest. However, the memory of the hero who saved his life in childhood comes flooding back. Remembering the tears of that savior, apologizing for not being able to save everyone, the mood becomes heavy. Since he was a little kid, the MC's dream was to be exactly like that man. A true hunter focused on protecting the weak until his very last breath. Overcome with fury, Seyol screams that he won't go down here and activates all his abilities at once. A massive wave of energy then explodes from the boy's body, illuminating the entire dungeon. Searching for clues, the MC scans the room with his powers, looking for any way out. His eyes on the hallway, his mind begs for even the slightest chance of survival. Suddenly, a strange glow catches his attention in the middle of the darkness. It becomes clear that there is a single, glowing tombstone in the entire hall. Ancient and mysterious letters cover the sacred stone, emitting pure power. Surprisingly, the system notifies him about a hidden class, leaving the boy shocked. Giving no quarter, the dungeon boss mocks the prey's useless effort. In a frontal assault, the necromancer promises to end the hero's suffering quickly. Completely cornered by the ghouls, the situation seems truly hopeless. In that exact millisecond, the blue panel offers the change to the labyrinth designer class. Brutally, the giant monster brings its hammer down for the final blow. With the violent impact on the floor, a cloud of dust and rocks fills the air. With no other options, our young MC knows it's now or never. Screaming with all his might, he accepts the class change instantly. In the blink of an eye, an explosion of divine energy throws all the beasts away. On the blue screen, the notice that the tutorial is about to begin leaves our MC very confused. Immediately, the reality of the dungeon transforms into floating digital blocks. Confused by the sudden magic, the monster halts its attack at once. Totally lost, the necromancer doesn't understand what's happening. Looking around, the villain realizes the boy has completely vanished from the map. In a safe corridor, Suyol stares at his new status glowing in the system. Noticing his old class is gone, he understands he's reawakened with new powers. Right after, the young man comes to a very important conclusion about the place. This mysterious space is actually the isolated area for his own tutorial. Straight to the point, the system gives him a mission to eliminate 20 gulls in one day to confirm the class. Reading the details, the kid accepts the goal but is intrigued by the map function. Touching the blue hologram, he activates the magic command panel. A holographic blueprint of the dungeon appears on the floor, super easy to understand. He quickly figures out that the central green dot marks his position in real time. Meanwhile, the scattered red lights indicate the exact location of each goal. With his eyes shining, the MC understands he needs to use this tactical advantage to hunt everyone down. As a natural-born seeker, this tracking mission is a perfect fit for the boy. With his morale sky high, the hero's confidence comes roaring back. Ready for a fight, he goes on the offensive without fear of danger. In the dark corners of the hallway, red eyes lurk, thirsty for blood. With a monstrous roar, a gull leaps from the shadows to pounce. With a clean slice of blue energy, the beast is cut in half, and the system announces a level up. Panting, our MC notes that there are only a few left but tells himself he needs to pick up the pace. Surprised by how easy the tutorial is, he even fashioned a makeshift weapon using the beast's bones. With this combination of sight and the map's radar, the tables have turned in the boy's favor. With each clean slice, the monster count plummets through the corridors. At this accelerated pace, the young man is sure he'll finish the mission before the deadline. As he runs through the labyrinth, he doesn't waste a single second, until a giant, muscular gull blocks the passage, staring into the boy's soul. According to the radar, the brood is wandering alone, but the creature's size spells guaranteed trouble. With his mind racing, our MC realizes the time it would take to hunt the giant beast is completely uncertain. To have a real chance, he needs to focus on the smaller goals first and ensure his survival. In an explosive burst of speed, the boy distances himself from the danger in search of easy targets. Right around the first corner, a lone monster crosses the hero's path. With a confident smile and his dagger glowing, the kid thanks the beast for showing up alone to be taken out. However, heavy footsteps echo through the corridor at that very moment, breaking the silence. Surprised, the MC curses the creature upon realizing it wasn't so alone after all. To make matters worse, an entire horde of gulls completely blocks the passage. Looking at the holographic map, the boy realizes the terrible mistake he made by ignoring the enemy radar. With a deep sigh, he tries to stay calm, as he can only handle 2 monsters at a time in a 1-1-1 fight. Completely surrounded on all sides, the only option is to force his way through with brute strength. Focused on the blue screen, the young man analyzes the virtual board, searching for an opening. With the red dots closing in on his position, checkmate seems inevitable. In a cold sweat, Seo-Yul questions if this is the true limit of a D-rank hunter. But as he dodges a deadly claw, he figures out the obvious: this is all just a tutorial for his new hidden class. Filled with anger, the main character screams at the system to give him something useful, because he refuses such a pathetic end. Immediately, blue panels flash on the screen, activating all the boy's passive and sensory abilities. In a perfect leap, he escapes the brute and challenges the beast with fire in his eyes. Thanks to the connection of his senses, the system reveals the hidden gift of manipulating the labyrinth's blocks. Shocked by the notification, the boy can hardly believe the absurd power he just gained. With the screen confirming the magic, the hero is frozen for a second. On the hologram, the rotation function shines brightly over the red routes. Curious and with no time to waste, the kid taps the rotate icon instantly. With a violent rumble, the entire wall shifts, mercilessly crushing and knocking down the creatures. With no ground beneath their feet, the gulls plummet straight into the dark abyss below. In the colossal impact, the remaining monsters end up squashed by the temple's stones. With a victorious smile, the protagonist finally understands the broken mechanic of his class. Full of confidence, he declares that the hunt has now become a walk in the park. Without mercy, the boy spins the map frantically, decimating the army of beasts without breaking a sweat. With the path cleared, the MC advances like a lightning bolt to finish off the trap's survivors. Imprecise cuts, the blue dagger tears through the creature's flesh in the narrow corridor. Furious with the massacre, the giant gull lets out a terrifying roar of pure rage. With very heavy steps, the brute charges with everything it's got toward our hero. Cool as a cucumber, the young man touches the holographic panel again. A magical barrier appears out of nowhere and smacks the monster right in the face with extreme force. Seizing the opportunity, Seo-Yul pushes off and leaps toward the disoriented enemy. In an acrobatic maneuver, he steps on the wall to gain even more speed in the air. With a victory cry, the kid brings the blade down with full force, announcing that this is the last target. The electric strike hits the giant beast's nape perfectly in a fatal attack. With its teeth clenched in pain, the makeshift boss can't withstand the pressure of the cut. In the blink of an eye, the monster's body disintegrates into purple particles of magic. Smoothly, our protagonist lands on the ground after the flawless combat. With a cold gaze, the hero remembers the promise he made at the beginning of the nightmare. The memory of that deadly trap by the necromancer flashes clearly in his mind. Full of morale, the boy repeats that he would never be taken out after coming so far in the dungeon. Blue screens pop up, confirming the end of the tutorial, the new class, and exclusive rewards, with the option to return home. Back in the real world, under the rain, his teammates scream desperately for the rescue leader. In the middle of the confusion, the vanguard holds back a crazed hunter who wants to charge into the gate no matter what. Calmly, the guy with glasses explains that the gate simply vanished and asks where on earth they're supposed to look for the kid now. Casually eating a surreal bar, our hero appears out of thin air and asks what's going on. Under an umbrella, the young man questions the reason for all the shouting in the middle of the street. Jaws on the floor, the squad members nearly cry seeing the kid alive and without a scratch. Paying no mind to the drama, Seo-yeol suggests they grab some ice cream and clock out to go home. Days later, the weather changes to a sunny afternoon in a bustling city square. Discreetly, the protagonist tests his new power and summons an invisible magic sphere in the air. Sitting on a bench, the MC understands that this imprisonment ability will be essential in the outside world. Reading the details of the S-rank magic, he discovers the risk of enemies getting stronger if they escape the cage. Since it's invisible to normal people, capturing targets is easy, but the space's durability requires caution. To survive against strong enemies in the future, the kid knows he needs to fill his labyrinth with overpowered monsters. The only way to capture these beasts is to take down targets within the domain and activate his new title as king. Dispelling the magic sphere, the boy concludes he urgently needs to train to get much stronger. Suddenly, a female voice pulls the hero from his tactical thoughts. With a gentle smile, the beautiful Yaon, he offers the young man a fresh apple. Kindly, our MC accepts the gift sent by the girl's mother, thanks to their long-standing friendship as neighbors. With a whole bag of fruit in his hands, the young man feels awkward and asks if it isn't a bit much. During their walk down the street, the hunter strikes up a conversation about the girl's school routine. With a slightly sad expression, the girl looks away and hesitates on the subject. Taking a bite of the apple, the boy agrees that school life is always the same old monotonous thing. Before they can finish their conversation, screams of pure despair echo down the busy avenue. On the sidewalk, a mother cries hysterically while police officers try to hold her back. In tears, the woman screams that her daughter is still trapped inside the hotel building right in front of them. With a clinical eye, Seo-yeol analyzes the smoke and determines that the problem here is a dungeon break. At the top of the building, a red gate glows intensely, spewing chaos after being ignored by the guilds. In a quick reaction, the protagonist hands the bag back to his neighbor and apologizes for having to rush off. With a heroic posture, he mentions a call from the rescue department and heads toward the confrontation. With the street consumed by chaos, police officers try to contain the desperate crowd in front of the hotel. At the caution tape, a guard stops our MC and informs him of the total restriction. Wasting no time, the boy flashes his badge to reveal his position as a rescue officer. Surprised, the police officer questions the lack of a team, but the hero decides to enter the front line. Worried, the guard touches the kid's shoulder in an attempt to stop this madness. After all, the building is infested with red goblins, and going in alone is a suicide mission. Serious and focused, Seo-yeol counters that the urgency demands maximum speed. With a nod to the crying mother, the police officer reinforces the danger of searching for the child among the beasts. Since the main guild's hunters are late, the young man declares the urgent need to secure the area. With a smirk, he thinks to himself that he's far from a one-man army. Normally, the Hanwoo Guild would be the one responsible for clearing this hotel dungeon. In theory, the population trusts these guys, but reality proves their total disdain for non-profitable gates. Because of this corporate greed, low-level dungeons frequently break, causing bloody tragedies. Activating his sixth sense through the blue interface, our young MC scans the entire environment. In a quick dash, he taunts the monster to come out of hiding, intending to test a theory. From the ceiling, several red goblins leap down in a coordinated surprise attack. Calmly, the boy just mutters about the obvious and typical behavior of these creatures. With a mental command to the system, he creates the magic sphere capable of trapping enemies in the air. In a blue flash, the dimensional prison sucks the monsters straight into another, closed-off reality. Totally lost, one of the goblins' face plants on the stone floor, not understanding the sudden change of scenery. Without mercy, the barrier continues its deadly work, pulling in every creature in the hero's path. With firm steps through the corridors, the kid easily clears the area with his miniature black hole. In a brief reflection, he admits that the old Seo-yeol would have been trembling with pure terror in a situation like this. However, with his new powers, the boy's confidence reaches absurd levels. As the true master of the labyrinth, the real show of carnage has barely even begun. Basically, the Red Goblin is classified as a very common and weak one-star monster. Unlike normal variants, this species faithfully obeys its leader's orders in battle. However, there's a very fatal detail in the collective intelligence of these beasts. With a sadistic smile, the creature lurks in the shadows, proving it possesses cruel combat tactics. In practice, these creatures hunt in a coordinated and lethal manner until they come face to face with our MC. With the sphere in hand, the hero scoffs, making the absolute failure of this cheap tactic clear. Suddenly, a summoned giant ghoul smashes the small monster against the domain's blue wall. Ferociously, the captured beast chews on the Red Goblin without a single drop of mercy. In the middle of the beatdown, the smaller creatures are sent flying, hit by the brute's overwhelming force. Keeping an eye on the domain's status, the young man notices the ghoul's rapid adaptation to the prison environment. Very curious about the automatic takedowns, the kid strolls through the lobby, dagger always at the ready. With a chilling gaze, he decrees that inside his territory, the goblins themselves become the prey. Through his magic vision, the targets appear projected directly onto the palms of his hands, just like in a game. The holographic system soon points to the hostage's presence on the 17th floor of the luxury building. In the hotel's main suite, a heavy, tense atmosphere takes over the dark room. Hiding in a corner, little Somi cries with relief at the miraculous arrival of the rescue team. Gently, the hero announces the end of the nightmare and calms the girl's rapid breathing. Hurried footsteps echo down the corridor in a safe escape towards the exit of the danger zone. Hand in hand, the little girl asks an innocent question, admiring the Mr. for defeating so many monsters by himself. With a gentle smile, he reassures the little one and confirms the complete success of the rescue operation. Through his tactical radar, the kid senses the beast's strategy of constantly tracking them by human scent. Without the hero's perfect timing, the suite's door would have been completely smashed to pieces by now. Very suddenly, a red alert beeps non-stop on the protagonist's interface. Standing in front of the elevator, he focuses 100% of his attention on the system's critical danger message. Full of curiosity, little Somi finds his attitude strange and asks if the hero is going down. Kneeling at the girl's height, the young man makes up an excuse about needing to hunt a very stubborn creature up top. After ensuring the child's safe dispatch, he advances down the dark corridor with his lethal sphere armed. Inside the magical domain, the feared Red Goblin King violently tears through the MC's summons. With the constant loss of his ghoul soldiers, the boy hesitates to release his own labyrinth boss into this fight. Due to the high risk of losing his trump card, the only way out is to solve the problem with his own two hands. In an acrobatic leap, Seoyol dives headfirst into the blue portal toward his private territory. With his feet firm on the labyrinth floor, the boy is amazed by the colossal size of his own arena. Amidst thick fog, dust and shattered stones fly, revealing the pure destruction caused by the enemy leader. Full of mockery, the kid tells the brute to immediately stop breaking his magic toys. With perfect control of the environment, the green walls slide and sink across the battlefield. Face to face, our hero stares down the fury of the Red Goblin King without blinking once. With his hand charged with pure energy, he openly calls the monster for a straight-up, hand-to-hand fight. Extremely furious at the audacity, the king roars with pure hatred and shoots forward at a terrifying speed. With a brutal swing of its giant club, the beast promises to crush the boy's skull in a single impact. In an elegant dodge, the protagonist escapes the fatal blow by a matter of millimeters. Immediately, the two collide in a boom of flames and lightning that shakes the labyrinth from end to end. Despite the colossal impact, the young man feels his muscles tingle with an abnormal lightness and speed. Looking at his status tab, level 24 completely justifies this absurd brute force unleashed in combat. On the other side, the monster tries to assert dominance with a sequence of very heavy, flaming slashes. Initially, the idea was just to test the ghoul's power, but now the kid is certain of a solo victory. Hot sparks explode in the air with every block of his dagger against the metal of the creature's magic club. With immense physical pressure, the Goblin King forces the hero back several meters in a direct attack. Due to the immense energy of the confrontation, the thick stone floor cracks under the warrior's feet. Without yielding a single inch, Seoyol concentrates the maximum amount of magic into his short blade for the counterattack. With a crack that breaks the sound barrier, the electric dagger definitively tears through the enemy's defense. Tired and panting, the kid slides back on the slippery floor of the magic temple. With an ironic smile, he thanks the force of the impact for throwing his body to the exact right spot. In shock, the monster trembles in pain, unable to even lift its giant metal weapon. Calmly, the MC informs it that the space was already under his complete control from the start of the fight. To prove his theory, the boy opens the blue labyrinth interface in search of that special mechanism. Laughing at the situation, the hero confesses to spending 2 million to prepare that terrain with care. As the supposed king of the enemy horde, Seoyol demands a show worthy of the heavy investment. Seeing the beast frozen in place, he lets out a sharp taunt, asking if the king is scared. Consumed by absolute fury, the goblin chief explodes in flames and dashes forward for one last desperate attack. With an animalistic roar, the creature destroys the floor in an attempt to reach its target as quickly as possible. Focused on the human's demise, the red monster crosses the entire hall, promising the end of the line. Without moving a muscle, the young man smiles at the holographic screen, eager to see the result of his $1 million expense. Exactly halfway there, the beast steps into the square marked by the invisible system. Immediately, the black box on the wall reacts, activating the labyrinth's ultimate trap. Like a giant magnet, the unavoidable repulsion device fires a massive gravitational wave into the air. Squeezed against the invisible pressure, the Monster King feels its chest bones crack before flying upwards. Waving casually, our MC says goodbye with an ironic little wave as the system confirms the trap's activation. Launched like a missile straight at the stone ceiling, the creature doesn't even have time to scream. Seconds later, several wet, sharp cracks echo through the arena, sealing the boss's fate. In absolute silence, the boy watches the rain of thick blood paint the walls and floor. Thrilled, he admits that installing traps for 20 gold coins is worth every single penny. Seeing the level up notification, the kid smiles at the perfect results and the capture of the new hoard for his domain. Later, back in the real world, the hero steps out of the portal with a clean badge and the posture of someone who did nothing special. Right at the exit, the leader of the rescue squad bumps into the boy, almost having a heart attack from the shock. Very confused, the colleague asks how our young MC stayed in there alone all this time after the chaos started. Upon hearing the news that the goblins have vanished from the map, the chief shakes the kid and asks if he was responsible. Keeping up the act, the boy plays dumb, saying he took a blow to the head and blacked out. Suddenly, a polite voice cuts through the confusion, drawing the attention of the two federal agents. Without losing his composure, a man named Kwon introduces himself as the representative of the massive Hanwol Guild. Full of ulterior motives, the suit asks for a quick word with the rescue team. With a fake smile, the bureaucrat thanks them for the rescue team's useless cooperation during the dungeon break. Without beating around the bush, the guy pulls the squad leader by the arm to move them away from curious onlookers. Then he drops the bomb, asking for complete silence about the bizarre incident with the red goblins. His glasses glinting, the executive swears up and down to compensate the hotel for the millions in damages. Through subtle pressure, he offers generous sponsorships to the federal department in exchange for a clean report. Observing the scene from afar, Seol understands this is how the powerful cover up their own amateur failures. Unlike the public department full of D ranks, the guilds boast absurd S-rank fighters. Because of this false brute strength, the population places their lives and blind trust in the hands of mercenaries. Aware of this injustice, the kid clenches his fists, furious at the impunity of the elite guilds. In the negotiation, his teammate gives in to the dirty money, accepting the terms of the gag order without blinking. Knowing the scandal would disappear from the media anyway, the MC decides to take advantage of their corruption. With a dark smile, the boy steps into the middle of the conversation, implying that leaving empty-handed isn't an option. Grabbing the rich guy by his suit collar, the kid makes it clear he'll have to fix the guild's screw-ups many more times in the future. Pale as a ghost, the suit breaks into a cold sweat hearing the direct, shameless extortion. Without a shred of fear, our young MC whispers in the bureaucrat's ear, demanding the ridiculous sum of 10 billion. Shocked by the financial bombshell, the suit nearly falls over backward, completely stunned. On a sunny day off, the MC enjoys the tranquility in a bustling park. Sipping his iced coffee, the hero enjoys the sun and the atmosphere of pure peace after the dungeon's chaos. With a well-deserved 2-day break, he takes a deep breath, happy with the calm. In recent memory, he celebrates the cash he squeezed from the corrupt guild, and the fact that he handled the mess alone. However, the mood in the squad has changed, and his colleagues have started to get suspicious of the quiet kid. Worried about his secret reawakening leaking, he avoids drawing any more unwanted attention as much as possible. Focused on progress, the young man opens the blue panel to check the mandatory maintenance for his personal labyrinth. The big problem is that fixing cracks and respawning monsters costs gold from the hunter system itself. Looking at the currency conversion, he's shocked to see the repair cost hit the absurd mark of 5.5 million. Since he's collected very little gold so far, the boy swallows hard, realizing he won't be able to cover the bill without more sweat equity. Resigned to reality, he closes the magic panel, ready to continue his journey. Out of nowhere, his phone rings, breaking the peaceful mood and irritating our off-duty hunter. With narrowed eyes, he answers out of pure spite, ordering the person to speak quickly and not waste his time. On the line, a female voice teases the boy, mocking his day off with a super cynical tone. Without warning, the woman from the surveillance department demands that the kid find a person, effective immediately. Ticked off, Agent Lee Jung-hai is left hanging as our MC hangs up the phone right in her face. Not believing the audacity, the spy sends a text, cussing the boy out for his extreme lack of manners. Going back to his coffee, he mutters to himself about the gold he could save if he does everything quickly. Aware of the savings, he prefers to act rather than keep reviving monsters in his own labyrinth. To make matters worse, the phone won't stop ringing, and the spy starts getting dramatic in the text messages. Furious with her persistence, the kid yells in the chat that the spy should learn to do her own job. Curious about the mysterious target, he makes an exception to find out who the big fish is. Upon reading the name Kame Tazen, the boy's relaxed expression vanishes, replaced by absolute focus. Thinking of the famous fighter, the MC confesses his long-held desire to see the master up close at least once. Walking through the park, the hero activates his extra mental search ability. Through magic, his human radar pings, quickly identifying the fighter's signal near the trees. At a stone table, several elderly men are engaged in intense games of Asian chess. Fired up, the old man in white challenges his gray, haired opponent to the next duel as he moves a piece. Hiding behind the bushes, the boy trembles at the weight and density of this guy's aura in person. Normally, only super powerful Wakanda emanate such a dark red aura. Besides that brutal display of power, the boy doubts if the old man in formal wear is really the living legend. From his picture on the internet, the image of the S-rank hero looked very different from this old man playing chess in the park. Stealthily, the kid approaches and whispers the perfect tip in the old man's ear to help him win the match. He quickly suggests moving the chariot piece first to break the gray-haired man's defense. Using the surgical precision of his sixth sense, the young man scans every possible move on the board. Like a human supercomputer, his mind calculates the inevitable victory in a fraction of a second. On the final move, the chariot delivers the checkmate, and the gray-haired man stands up, shocked by the quick defeat. Calmly, the victorious old man thanks him for the help but warns that he doesn't ignore people hiding with bad intentions. With a smirk, Seo Yul realizes his doubts are gone and confirms the identity of the weapon master. As one of South Korea's 5 greatest hunters, the old-timer's presence on the street is a rare event. He's famous for literally turning any object in his hand into a lethal and destructive weapon. Even in the presence of this living legend, the MC claims he can't ignore a useless and weak move in a game of chess. Breaking the tense atmosphere, Agent Jung-ai arrives, shouting for her master from a distance. Out of breath from running, the woman in the suit finally catches up to the pair in the park. Confused, the old man asks if the boy is part of the surveillance department along with his student. With a mischievous smile, the kid shows the spy's ended call and says he's just a tracker from the rescue team. Impressed by his audacity, the old-timer grabs the hero by the shirt collar to look him in the eye. Curtly, the fighter praises the boy's talent but warns that his big mouth will cause him trouble in the future. Behind the pair, the surveillance agent bows her head in shame for being scolded for taking so long. With no time to waste, the old master tells the girl to pack their things so they can return to the student's dojo. With a deadly glare, the blonde woman whispers, questioning how the protagonist found the target faster than her team's best spies. Full of swagger, our boy replies that he's simply good at his job. Turning his back, the kid announces that the delivery is complete and tries to sneak away from the old man's lecture. In a firm voice that sends a chill down his spine, the weapon master orders the kid to follow him immediately. Straight to the point, the S-rank swears to test the true extent of that smart mouth brat's talent. In theory, the world of hunters operates on the absolute limit of maximum capacity. This means that even by working his tail off, a C-rank hunter can never break through this invisible barrier imposed by the system. However, martial arts exist precisely to break this stupid and useless rule of numbers. Thus, mastering weapons through combat allows one to surpass their own energy limits and destroy previously invincible barriers. With perfect slashes that crack the air, the master demonstrates the true pinnacle of sword mastery in the arena. Impressed by the absurd movement, the kid shivers slightly, absorbing the shock of seeing the legend in action. Deep down, the MC just wanted to go back to his labyrinth to check on his goals, instead of enduring the boring training in the crowded dojo. Furious at the boy's bored expression, a burly student from surveillance yells in his face, demanding respect for the master. From the disgusted look on the blonde's face, it's obvious that the annoying student is one of the promising B-rank stars from her department. After praising the raw potential of the burly newcomer, the old S-rank demands the pair's full attention for the next lesson. Holding the hilt of his worn sword, he asks the golden question about the main secret to the perfect mastery of a weapon. The atmosphere in the dojo becomes heavy as everyone awaits the chilling answer to the challenge. Hasty and eager, the burly student blurts out that the secret is brute force combined with pure mastery of one's own skills. In a deadly silence, the old-timer glares at the brute with a sharp look, not saying whether the answer was good or not. Slowly turning his head, the master focuses on the arrogant boy and throws the same heavy question at him. Without breaking a sweat, Seo Yul states bluntly that the only requirement is the unwavering will to wield the weapon to take a life. Immediately, the audience of students begins to whisper and criticize our MC's cheap philosophical answer. Challengingly, the legend asks if the boy is willing to bet on that half-baked answer. With his eyes shining with confidence, the kid holds his gaze and says he is absolutely certain. Analyzing the young man's cocky and shameless attitude, the veteran fighter lets out a heavy sigh. And then, to everyone's surprise, the old-timer points a finger in Seo Yul's face, confirming that he nailed the right answer. A bit awkwardly due to the unusual situation, the hero lets out a dry thank you with a furrowed brow. Trembling with pure fury and humiliation, the brute clenches his teeth until his gums bleed. Unable to swallow the theoretical defeat, the big guy freaks out and yells at the master, complaining about the absurd injustice. Casting a look of disdain, our protagonist doesn't understand the rival's crying fit over a mere theoretical question. Calmly, the master interrupts the big guy's whining, saying that anyone qualified has the right to step into that arena. Ignoring the original training plan, the old man suggests a physical duel between the two to prove who was really right in theory. In a split second, the big guy accepts the fight with a macabre smile, while our MC politely declines with a wave of his hand. Faced with Seo Yol's refusal, Master Kang feigns disappointment, announcing he'll promote the big guy without a test after all. Then, he throws out the fatal bait, saying that passing the test guarantees the coveted title of his official disciple. Shocked by the weight of those words, the boy's mind stops working as he realizes the golden, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Becoming the direct pupil of an S-rank living legend elevates the status of any nobody in the entire world of hunting. Smiling at the obvious greed in the kid's eyes, the old legend pulls his sword from the ground with determination. Without a second thought, our young MC squares his shoulders, ready to demolish the brute in a brawl. Cracking his knuckles angrily, the boy confirms his entry into the brutal beatdown. With a wicked grin from someone who struck gold, he shamelessly says the reward is worth the exhaustion. Pointing to the back of the gigantic dojo, the master reveals the simple setting for the trial by fire. The rule is clear: whoever breaks the giant ether stone in the center first wins the victory, and the apprentice spot. Completely humiliated by the challenge of breaking a rock, the brute clenches his teeth in pure anger at the master. Aware of the difficulty, the MC mutters the name of the ether crystal and immediately understands the gravity of the situation. Generally, these stones are born charged with such dense magical energy that only the highest level awakened can dent them. Desperate, the giant doesn't understand the tactic of the stone and questions the reason for this magical nonsense in a hand-to-hand duel. On the sidelines, the surveillance crowd boos Seo Yol, already predicting an easy victory for the experienced big guy. Firm in his stance, our hero grabs a wooden training staff and swears to get that spot no matter what, by sheer force. With slow steps, the S-rank veteran announces that the test begins with the transfer of his magic into the competitors' bodies. Curt and direct, he warns that failing to absorb the pressure right there on the mat means instant elimination. In the blink of an eye, the old man's gentle expression changes to the pure instinct of a legendary killer. Immediately, a massive pillar of red aura flames explodes from the old man's body, burning all the oxygen in the room. Pinned to the floor by the density of the magical power, the brute cries, unable to breathe in a pool of sweat. Feeling his bones being crushed by the pressure, the hero resists, his vision blurring from the killing energy. Exactly in the blind spot of his mental blackout, an ancient and magical memory awakens before his eyes. Floating over a serene lake, a spear of blue light shines, confirming the acquisition of the ultimate ability, Dragon King's Spear. From his shocked expression, the master realizes the boy absorbed 100% of his technique in the blink of an eye. Hiding a smile of satisfaction, the old-timer praises both of them for withstanding the aura of certain doom. Usually, students either pass out on the spot or feel nothing at all due to a lack of magical talent. With the initial approval complete, he summons the competitors for the brute strength test on the stone. Holding the handle of the training weapon, the younger fighter taunts, asking who has the guts to go first. Paying the kid no mind, the brute steps forward full of swagger, promising to shatter the crystal right away. With an aggressive roar, he concentrates all his fury and muscle into his right arm. Panning after the strike, the buff student stares at the shards of the ether stone on the arena floor. Ignoring the pain, the big guy accuses our MC of having bribed his way into the surveillance spot. Filled with hatred, he tries to intimidate the boy, saying he'll prove who's stronger the hard way. Immediately, the rival raises his weapon again and delivers another massive blow to the fallen stones. Shocked by the impact, the crowd cheers, questioning how a simple bureaucratic agent destroyed the barrier so easily. Stroking his chin, the master just mutters that the brute has a very good grasp of the technique's essence. Getting everyone's attention, Seo Yol takes a step forward with a frozen expression of pure seriousness. Staring at his rival, he asks if the big guy isn't ashamed of stealing the spot from someone who was already an apprentice. Cutting the heavy mood, the kid cracks a smirk and calls the old fighter senior. Immediately, the old-timer raises his hand and authorizes the protagonist's turn in the destructive test. With firm steps toward the center of the mat, the hero focuses on the true challenge of that demonstration. Knowing the test isn't just about muscle, the boy reflects on the true weight of the trial. Instead of brute force, the master wants to test the killing intent of the one wielding the weapon. Concentrating all his mana and energy, he whispers to himself the reason for using that wooden staff. In an instant, Seo Yol's mind travels back to the blue gate of the past with absurd clarity. Through his memory, he relives the scene of the experienced hunter using his own life to save civilians from danger. Right there, the dream of becoming the ultimate hero was forged into our MC's soul, and the need to share the hope of living reignites the fire in his eyes. With both feet planted on the ground, the rescue hunter explodes in flames, revealing his final objective. In an absurd explosion of power, he declares with a shout his promise to become much stronger. In a flash of red light, the boy's body cuts through the air, delivering the lethal magic, heart-piercing spear. The boom of the impact creates a shockwave that knocks down several students in the dojo. Stunned by the pure violence of the attack, Master Kang's eyes widen for the first time that day. Spitting blood, the burly rival doesn't understand where the mere public servant got so much power. Catching his breath, Seo Yul lets out a sarcastic apology for the damage done to the scenery. With the destroyed weapon in hand, he cracks a joke and asks if the senior minds the newcomer stealing the spot. Satisfied, the old master states that weapons and magic are mere tools compared to a warrior's true power. Pointing his finger at the boy, the old-timer officially declares his victory and proclaims the kid as his one and only disciple. Bowing his head in a sign of absolute respect, the new pupil expresses his gratitude for the honor, never losing his smile. Completely flabbergasted, the audience doesn't say a single word in the face of the overwhelming result of the test. Later, on a dark, poorly lit street, the sound of beatings echoes in a dirty alley. 3 rich kids mercilessly attack Yeon Hee, throwing her face first onto the disgusting ground. With a rotten smile, the leader of the preps mocks the injured girl on the asphalt. Pulling the young woman's hair, the delinquent questions her stubbornness in helping a loser friend. In the background, her friend is being beaten by another rich kid and screams for the girl to run and save herself. Covered in blood, the friend falls to the ground, trembling from the rich kid's merciless punches. With blatant mockery, the prep leader scoffs at the boy's powerlessness and the pair's loneliness. According to the delinquent, the duo's only true ally decided to jump off the school roof and ended up in the hospital. Gritting her teeth in pure rage, Yeon Hee lifts her head, staring at her attacker with bloodshot eyes. Irritated by the girl's courage, the rich kid threatens her and says he hates defiant looks. In an act of pure cowardice, he delivers a violent slap right across the injured girl's face. Heavy footsteps interrupt the crime as an imposing shadow appears in the dark alley. Recognizing the newcomer, the group's leader laughs and greets the B-rank mercenary hunter as their savior. Full of arrogance, the rich kid announces they're leaving, but tells his goon not to take his eyes off the injured girl. With fear in her eyes, Yeon Hee raises her voice and asks where that band of cowards is going. Smiling like a psychopath, the rich kid says he intentionally chose a completely empty and dark location. Immediately, a purple portal tears through reality at the top of an isolated building, far from prying eyes. Right there, the illegal dungeon promises to be the perfect playground for torturing the victim. In another part of the city, the blonde agent grumbles with envy, questioning the happiness of the new S-rank pupil. Looking at the options, the hero holds a strange spear in his hand, while the surveillance agent criticizes the simplicity of his choice. With his eyes glued to the interface, the MC understands that the spear of evolution molds itself according to the user's willpower. Having made his decision, he puts the weapon away and complains about the department's bureaucracy outside of office hours. Suddenly, a scream at the building's entrance stops the 2 hunters in their tracks. In tears, an older woman tries to force her way through the automatic doors, begging to see Seo Yul. Very distressed, the lady explains that she couldn't reach him by phone and decided to break in out of desperation. Startled, the boy realizes the sweaty, trembling woman is actually the neighbor who always brings him fruit. Rushing over, he removes the security guard's hand and asks her to calm down, wanting to know the severity of the problem. Crying desperately, the neighbor grabs the kid's shirt and screams her missing daughter's name. Completely terrified, the woman informs him that he was kidnapped by a gang of delinquents in the middle of the street. With a dry mouth, our hero's face darkens, and his eyes reveal pure bloodlust. With a killer aura seeping from his pores, he demands the name of whoever dared to lay a finger on the girl. Inside the dense, dark forest of the purple portal, the group of rich kids drags the young woman through the woods. Aware of the dangers of dungeons, the prep leader thanks the paid escort of the B-rank mercenary hunter. Desperate, the girl tries to find a way out before the worst happens, far from society. Full of sadism, one of the attackers whispers in her ear, telling her the mercenary hunter will beat her up, just like he beats monsters. Pale with terror, the girl knows her end is certain if the dungeon doesn't get her first. Desperate, she breaks free from their grip and runs frantically through the woods without direction. With a purely sadistic smile, the rich kid tells the mercenary to capture the girl alive. In the adrenaline of the escape, the young woman realizes their sick plan to use her as monster bait. In her blind rush, the girl's foot trips hard on an exposed root of a giant tree. Immediately, the girl face plants in the undergrowth, letting out a sharp cry of pain. With slow steps and a killer aura at full blast, the mercenary mocks the victim's cry for help. From the shadows of the foliage, something huge and sharp slashes through the darkness, aimed right at the hired hunter's neck. Acting on pure B-rank reflex, the mercenary retreats in time while drawing his gleaming knives. In a monstrous green flash, a scythe-shaped claw slams into the ground, sending the attackers flying. The impact spreads blood, and the leader's cowardly partner takes a nasty cut right across his chest. Furious, the rich kid orders the mercenary to slice up the beast and rescue his fallen friend as quickly as possible. With a cold gaze, the hired fighter ignores the rescue order and focuses on his own survival. Through the mist, the worst plague of the jungle reveals itself, the sting falcon and its flying horde. Far away, dressed in the rescue team's tactical gear, Seo-yeol cracks a satisfied smile as the winged beast falls to the ground. Further ahead, a vanguard teammate impales another insect with his military spear. While pulling a cigarette from the pack, the officer complains about how boring is to respond to a missing person alert in the woods. As a department veteran, Kang Jung-min just asks the cocky solo hunter rookie to be careful. Completely indifferent to the older man's lecture, our MC cuts him off mid-sentence. Curtly, the boy states that the yellow zone is no place for a schoolgirl to be playing hide and seek. According to the system's classification, that zone indicates a sealed, highly unstable area post-gate break. Although the local monsters are theoretically weak, they hunt in organized and lethal hordes. Luckily for Seo-yeol, the giant ants are easier to crush than the old red goblins. Even so, the boy admits that surviving in this jungle without magic powers is an impossible miracle for the hostage. In an explosive run, the hunter tears through the mist, activating the dark gift in the palm of his hand. Right at the point of contact, the dimensional sphere pulls on gravity, swallowing the vacuum around it. Furious with the invasion, the giant insects dive in a swarm to slice the hero with their scythes. In a hurry, the kid conjures one of the spears of light, complaining about the delay caused by the insects. With zero patience left, he summons the labyrinth sphere, calling for magical reinforcements in the middle of the woods. In the deadly silence of the swamp, dozens of ghouls leap from the shadows, snapping the necks of the flying beasts. Blown to pieces, the giant insects fall dead from the tactical ambush of the undead horde. Surprised by the dirty trick, the vanguard veteran comments on the rookie's number of friends. Without losing momentum, a giant ant leaps for a suicide attack, its scythe cutting through the air. Aware of the danger behind him, the teammate dodges the green blade at the very last millisecond. In an explosion of blue light, Seo-yeol himself finishes off the beast in defense of his slower partner. Panting, the officer admits that things were starting to get really dangerous in that sealed area. According to the system panel, the goal count is dropping rapidly under the furious attack of the insect colony. With the tactic at his fingertips, the MC knows that pulling the insects into the labyrinth would destroy the walls due to lack of space. On the other hand, dealing with this infinite number of creatures by hand and spear is pure suicide. Accepting reality, the boy closes his eyes and mutters about the extreme necessity of this moment. After all, this absurd plan was saved for exactly the worst possible situation. With the look of a pure maniac, he asks the veteran if he knows how to swim as magic explodes in his hands. Instantly, a giant vortex sucks the air, breaking trees and twisting the forest space-time. With a spinning kick in the void, he fires the black hole magic and warns of the imminent impact. On the labyrinth screen, the order for total release echoes in the hunter's soul, activating the ultimate catastrophe. From within the black hole, a massive, violent torrent of water gushes out, tearing reality apart. Caught by surprise, the ghouls drown first, followed by the flying mutant ants. Not understanding the sudden magic, the giant insects sink, fighting against the crushing pressure of the flood. Carrying everything in its path, the flood drags rocks, trees, and mangled bodies in its currents. Soon the entire forest turns into a raging river, painted dark green and blood red. Floating and perishing, the worst species of the dungeon disappears under the giant waves created by the hero. Covered in mud and dripping water, the officer cries and argues about the cost of restoring all that destroyed environment. Resigned to the system's scolding, the kid pulls the magic lock, collecting the water back into his domain. Happy for the regained silence, he ignores his wet partner and focuses on the real objective. Hurried footsteps cut through the dark undergrowth in another part of the flooded dungeon. Scared out of his mind, the goon cries, questioning the limit of those beasts' pursuit. Furious with the cowardly escape, the rich kid curses the uselessness of the B-rank mercenary in protecting the group. At his wit's end, the rich kid spits out his hatred for having paid a high price, only to now be running from his demise. Before the mercenary can respond, a blade flies through the air, piercing the crying goon's chest. Spitting blood, the useless one falls to the hard ground, not understanding where the fatal blow came from. Desperate at the sudden loss, the rich kid leader freezes in shock, almost vomiting in terror. From the trees, an ant queen descends, revealing the murderous glint in her 3 red eyes. Panicked, the rich kid grabs the girl and screams for protection behind the mercenary hunter. In a mad dash, the team of cowards runs headfirst into a dead-end rocky barrier. With no options and cornered by the giant beast, the prep drags the girl by her hair in a fit of rage. In a brutal charge, the mutant ant fires a destructive laser, melting the rocks around the group. From the shock of the impact, the girl and the leader are thrown far, rolling in the magical dust. Holding the hot weapon tightly, the hero ignores the scumbag and questions if they were the ones who dragged his friend into this hell. From the hunter's aggressive posture under the moonlight, the obvious answer needs no introduction. With her eyes full of tears, the hostage screams for help, recognizing her partner at the same time. In the young woman's relieved embrace, Seo-yeol confirms for the first time the rare sight of the tough girl actually crying. Regaining his false tough guy posture, the spoiled kid yells to get our boy's attention. Shamelessly, he promises to pay a hefty sum if the agent escorts him to the gate's exit. Disgusted by the guy, he asks the hero to just ignore the rich kid and focus on escaping. Calmly, the MC apologizes to his friend, leaving her completely confused. In a quick gesture, he raises his hand and covers the girl's eyes to spare her the sight of what's to come. Focused on the hunter, the leader of the cowards questions the reason for all the stalling. Without answering, Seo-yeol plants the tip of his bloody spear on the ground and adjusts his black gloves. Muttering softly, he tells himself he needs to hide the scene from his friend. Suddenly, the spoiled kid puffs out his chest and pulls the famous "Daddy's Boy" card. Complaining about the terrible public service, he introduces himself as the son of a Supreme Court justice, demanding VIP treatment. Instantly, the rich kid's criminal record flashes in the hero's mind like a red alert. Completely unpunished, the rich kid commits bullying, theft, assault, and covers it all up with his old man's infinite cash. Cutting the arrogance short, a clean punch explodes in the prep's face, cracking his nose in half. The shock of the blow shuts down the coward's swagger with a sharp, violent crack. Spitting blood, the rich kid collapses to the ground as the protagonist grabs him by the suit, demanding that his money solve this pain. Filled with hatred, the hero declares the ant hunt is over to focus on taking down this disgusting vermin. Startled, the mercenary reacts and tries to surprise the kid from behind with a stealth attack. In a precise dodge, our boy leaps to the side, letting the hired killer cut through empty air. With an icy gaze from under his hood, the MC recognizes the experienced hunter from surveillance. A total professional, the B-rank albino draws his twin knives, ready to clean up his boss's problem. Searing with pain, the spoiled kid on the ground screams, ordering his security to kill the public servant bastard. Without warning, the albino mercenary lunges with an insane sequence of double, lethal cuts. Sparks fly with each of the MC's brutal blocks with the spear's shaft, withstanding the B-rank's pressure. Despite the technical level difference, the hero's absurd agility irritates the albino, who misses every lunge. Mockingly, the mercenary laments not being able to teach him a lesson, as the boss's order was for lethal extermination. Sarcastically, our boy reminds him that they tried to take him out first, so the retaliation is fair. In a lightning-fast counterattack, the spear cuts through the air, forcing the mercenary to retreat and defend with his blades. Completely shocked by the weight of the blow, the albino wonders how a desk jockey hunter can push back a B rank. To the assassin's mind, the absurd strength of that attack surpasses the normal capabilities of the civil department. Readjusting his stance, the mercenary focuses on the classic weakness of spears, ignoring the target's status. With a quick lunge, the albino tries to get inside the MC's guard, trusting the speed of his short daggers. For him, the trick is to close the distance and nullify the range of the giant spear. In the blink of an eye, Seo-yeol throws the spear into the air and clenches his free hand into an iron fist. With no time to hesitate, he sends a devastating uppercut straight to the enemy's chin. The impact blacks out the assassin's vision, snapping his head back with extreme force. Staggering and half-dazed, the mercenary falls heavily to the ground, covered in leaves and branches. Desperate, the rich kid shakes his fallen goon, demanding the idiot get up and earn the money he was paid. Looking at his own hands, the kid can hardly believe the natural brutality of his new physical power. All that systematic slaughter of flying ants had boosted his stats far beyond the limit of a B-rank hunter. With a confident smile, the young man concludes that the practical training and the labyrinth have paid off as expected. In a fit, the spoiled kid rips a rock from the ground and threatens to throw it at the protagonist's head. Calling the hero a pawn, the human trash threatens to call upon the fury of the law to arrest the insolent hunter. Before he can finish his sentence, the metal shaft of the spear smashes the coward's mouth in a sharp blow. Spitting teeth, the rich kid rolls in agony, trembling from the impact to his face. Cold and calculating, Seo-yeol questions if the daddy's boy has finally felt the suffering of his own victims. In tears, the rich kid plays the victim, screaming that it's not his fault the victims are useless, powerless trash. Completely blinded by his own arrogance, the scumbag swears the hunter is acting out of pure envy of others' money. With his patience at its limit, the hero announces he doesn't have the stomach to personally torture someone so insignificant. So, he lifts his injured colleague's body into his arms and warns him of the consequences. In a calm and terrifying voice, the kid promises to leave a clear path for the dungeon's hungry beasts to do the dirty work. Noticing the hero starting to leave, the prep feels a chill and immediately screams for help. From the forest shadows, mutant wolves with purple eyes surround the coward, salivating for fresh meat. Scared out of his wits, the rich kid scoots backward, dragging his pants through the mud as he begs for his life. The last sound from the forest is the rich kid's desperate roar as he's swallowed by the jaws of the dark monsters. With his neighbor in his arms, Seo-yeol walks calmly under the moonlight, leaving the cursed dungeon behind. With this fatal intervention, the cowardly kidnapping in the dangerous yellow zone reaches its deserved conclusion. Now out of the forest, the young woman returns to her mother's desperate arms amidst tears of relief and warm hugs. Observing the scene from afar, the MC's partner reports that the folks from the control department caught the corrupt employees who allowed the illegal entry. Without the support of their powerful parents, the scandal leaks to the media, permanently staining the image of those involved. Because of the tragedy, the corrupt judge and father of the aggressor resigned from his position under pure social pressure and public shame. In the following days, the atmosphere returns to bureaucratic routine in the enormous civil department building, but the blue system pings, revealing a new and risky extermination mission for the master of the labyrinth. The screen orders the young man to kill the wasp queen, the pinnacle target of the insect colony, within a tight deadline of 30 days. Immediately, the memory of the giant creature in the yellow forest flashes in his mind. Aware of the boss's brutality, he recognizes the threat of its 3 murderous eyes and lethal scythes. Hidden in the center of the hive, the queen has heavy protection from an entire army of suicide ants. However, the greedy glint in the hero's eyes confesses his absurd desire to capture the monarch for his own use. In his tactical mind, the common bees destroyed his labyrinth like it was a game, so the queen must have the power to obliterate any invader. Satisfied with his future plan, he packs his bag and informs the team he's clocking out early. Calmly, his veteran colleague just reminds the boy to finish the bureaucratic paperwork before he bails. Just giving a nod, the kid pretends he heard and walks toward the door, ignoring the boring part of the job. With the door shut, the veteran lets out a sigh and focuses on the mountain of reports the rookie left behind. Knowing about the 30-day countdown, our MC walks firmly down the street with a single focus on tactical preparation. In the blink of an eye, the hero is already crossing the sacred gates of the martial arts training temple with his backpack on. Observing everything with a stern gaze from the top of the stairs, the surveillance agent mockingly points out the rookie's lateness to the dojo. Receiving the newcomer at the temple door, the weapon master warns that playtime is over. With the sunset covering the ancient arena, the tense atmosphere replaces the afternoon silence. Not quite understanding the scolding, Seol asks the reason for the rush, since he became the official disciple. Straight up, the veteran warns that being a pupil doesn't lessen the load. The real mountain of training starts now. Taking the boy to the back of the dojo, the pair finds the burly rival already drenched in sweat on the floor. Without complaining about his previous defeat, the big guy Jun Su salutes and shows pure respect for the leader. Acknowledging the student's effort, the master points to a strange and immense object in the center of the mat. Curious about the weird rock, the MC glances at his rival, looking for some clue about what to do with it. Breaking the mystery, the old-timer reveals that the stone is actually the jawbone of a very rare iron gull. To shock him even more, the old man confesses that this was the first mutant monster capable of nearly taking him down in the past. With a heavy hand on the boy's back, he throws down the challenge of breaking the beast's bone as a physical test. Totally confident in his own strength, our boy takes a deep breath and clenches his jaw, ready to destroy the test. In a brutal explosion of mana, he throws the heaviest punch of his life straight at the bone structure. Despite the violent impact, the stone only cracks a tiny fraction, surprising even the senior fighter. On impact, the dull thud of the punch reverberates through the arena, proving the insane hardness of the material. Aware of the difficulty, the buff senior praises Seo Yol's brute force for at least cracking the target. Then, the master points to the burly student and tells him to demonstrate how real damage is done. In a burst of humility, Junsu says his current level surpasses B rank, but is still nowhere near the master's. Full of focus, the brute grits his teeth and hits the jawbone with the force of a runaway truck. Suddenly, the magic bone cracks open a few centimeters, drawing a surprised smile from the old-timer. Sweating bullets after the effort, the student confesses his shock at seeing the stone almost intact after his maximum power strike. Satisfied, the master declares that this impossible test serves to force the pair's physical growth daily. As a punishment, he forbids any advancement in training until the boy can crack that entire jawbone open. In shock at the task, the hero realizes the deep hole he's gotten himself into by accepting to be the official pupil. In the burly rival's mind, the initial failure proves the protagonist got into the dojo by pure luck. After the afternoon ends, the big guy walks out of the temple, pensive and disappointed with the situation. After all, he sacrificed 2 years of his life, sweating blood at his limit, to try for the direct pupil spot. But at the end of the day, some bureaucratic nobody stole the golden opportunity on the very first test. Unable to accept the injustice, the big guy clenches his fists and swears to train twice as hard to prove his own worth. Interrupting his morning revolt, the so-called nobody appears with a friendly smile, wishing him a good morning. Surprised by the rookie's presence so early, the senior stammers and asks the reason for his early arrival. Calmly, our boy comments that waking up early is part of the discipline, even on days off from the department. Taking the opportunity, the MC asks the big guy to relax the formalities, since they're training partners now. Noticing the cleaning, the rival is shocked to see that the rookie cleaned the entire dojo before anyone else arrived. Bothered by the humble attitude, the big guy demands the hero stop this servant, like habit, to avoid hierarchical confusion. Very calmly, Seo Yul questions if there's really a need to create a status division between them in here. Not caring about the other's ego, he says that cleaning up is just a matter of personal habit, not an obligation. Facing the senior head-on, he states that everyone sweats blood on the same mat to achieve pure strength. Completely disarmed by the boy's posture, the big guy's accumulated anger slowly crumbles. In the following weeks, the rookie proves his worth, destroying his body in training and always being the last to leave. Despite his exclusive title as a disciple, he never shows off or abuses his position with the weaker ones. Quite the contrary, the kid makes friends quickly and fits in with the whole group without any fuss. Besides his charisma, he trains like a psychopath, pushing his physical limits to the extreme with his strikes. All this perfection creates a respectful hatred in the buff rival, who tries with all his might to hate the rookie. Tired and dripping with sweat, the senior finally admits to himself that the MC is the exact mirror of what he dreamed of being. With a cry of fury, Seo Yul finally cracks the monstrous jawbone in half with a perfect electric blow. Panting, he celebrates the millimeter of progress in his muscle explosion technique. Handing him a water bottle, the big guy tells the kid to pace himself, or he'll have a heart attack right there. For the first time, the senior calls the rookie by his name with the suffix for older brother, cutting the rivalry's tension. Drinking the water, our hero gives a sly smile and jokes about how long it took his colleague to accept their friendship. Cutting the peaceful moment short, a deep sound of a magic trumpet tears through the city sky, startling them both. Through the window, the big guy immediately identifies the noise as the official call of the Overcross Guild heading for an invasion. In theory, their target is a high-level gate that popped up near the temple in the middle of the night. As a former discarded employee, the big guy warns that the guild operates on a slave labor basis with no set hours. Inside the forest gate, a unit of hunters marches under the cold orders of the chief executive. Tired of the routine, the mercenaries grumble about the mission being too easy and quick for their standards. Indeed, the squad cleared almost the entire area in less than a day with no casualties. The problem is they spent their quota illegally capturing a steel blood orcs trapped in a blue magic cage. Suspicious, the group's rookie questions the reason for capturing the beast alive, since the rule is to put it down. Laughing at his innocence, the older partner scoffs and swears they'll make billions selling the creature on the black market. Completely focused on the smuggling, the goon throws out the idea of selling the monster's bizarre necklace too. Trapped in the containment barrier, the orc wakes up, feeling the violation of its belongings by the mercenary troop. Disgusted by the tacky artifact, the hunter tosses the piece of jewelry into the woods, cursing the worthless junk. Awakening its killer instinct, the mutant creature bares its stinking teeth and cracks the protective crystal. Freed from its magical bonds, the giant with dark skin and eyes of pure fire appears behind the soldiers. The next morning in the city, Seo Yul says goodbye to his teammates after finishing another boring shift. As usual, his veteran partner asks if the hero is bailing quickly or grabbing a beer with them. Politely declining the invitation, the boy says he needs to rush back to the martial arts dojo. That day, the master had to deal with some business off-site, and the duty of watching over the newbies fell to the rookie. Cutting the small talk, the emergency alert screams red and loud on the pair's federal bracelets. Immediately, the maximum distress signal summons all squads within a 20-kilometer radius. The screen confirms the worst possible tragedy, a 3-star gate break in the middle of the street. Looking at the map, Seo Yul's heart nearly stops when he sees the exact location of the massacre and the free monsters invasion. The red signal flashes desperately, pointing directly to the main door of the Korean Martial Arts Association. In the temple's destroyed courtyard, the mutant creature advances, destroying columns as students try to flee the imminent massacre. Bleeding from the orc's claws, the giant senior drops to his knees, completely exhausted in the destroyed courtyard. With the master away from the temple, the burly fighter swallows his pain and laments the old man's absence at the worst possible time. In the past, John Su joined the mercenary guild Overcross, thinking he was the greatest genius in the world of fighting. For years, he lied to himself, justifying the guild's cowardice and deaths as the natural selection of the strong. However, harsh reality crushed his ego when the dungeon's beasts massacred his teammates. Abandoned and surrounded by monsters, the senior realized then that he was just another disposable pawn for the system. With blood running down his face, the cruel vision of the hunter world almost made the big guy give up on everything and accept his end. Gripping the hilt of his worn sword, he promises he won't run away again this time. On that fateful day in the dungeon, the weapon master appeared out of nowhere and saved the boy without asking for a single cent in return. Now, inspired by the hero, the big guy swears to protect the dojo's rookies with his own life against the furious monster. Completely battered, the big guy taunts the giant orc, telling the bald beast to focus on him and forget the kids. Knowing he can't last much longer, he uses the rest of his mana merely as a suicidal human shield. Suddenly, the beast's arm inflates and crystallizes into a bizarre layer of hardened blood, ready to crush the senior. With an infernal roar, the giant brings down the red hammer, promising to wipe the human from existence. In the blink of an eye, a white bolt of lightning explodes, cutting through the air exactly between the injured student and the creature's fist. The force of the blow kicks up dust, but reveals our protagonist's flawless posture, blocking the orc with his crossed spear. Shocked by the sudden salvation, the big guy stammers, and his eyes go wide as he recognizes his younger brother's back. With a chilling gaze, the hero tells the big guy to relax, because from now on, the takedown is his responsibility. The blue holographic screen then flashes, inviting the direct adversaries into the dark and private domain. In a split second, reality crumbles, pulling the giant monster straight into the MC's personal dungeon. There, the orc immediately starts rampaging in pure fury, while Seo-yul backs off, cursing the beast's aggression. Observing the living steel blood on the monster, the boy questions Overcross's stupidity in messing with such an absurd danger. For the first time in his domain, the boy is shocked to see the orc pulverize the indestructible labyrinth walls with just its bare fists. With its destructive force at max, the monster proves in practice why it received a 3-star seal on the threat panel. Understanding that a 1-on-1 would be too risky, our MC cracks a sly smile and summons his first surprise. With a tap on the system, he throws infinite hordes of ghouls to hold back the boss and test its steel defenses. In a murderous fury, the dungeon's undead leap from all corners, sinking their claws and teeth into the giant's dark hide. While the big guy expends energy clearing out the smaller trash, the hero activates maximum speed in search of a lethal blind spot. Spinning like a blender, the red orc smashes ghoul heads, splattering magical brains all over the hall. Exactly in the opening of the spin, Seo-yul flies toward the beast's nape, driving his spear from end to end in a cowardly attack. Even with the critical hit, the system bar alerts to the dangerously low number of undead in the one-sided battle. Furious with the stab in the back, the orc hardens its external blood, closing the wound and trapping the hero's weapon. Feeling his spear stuck in the monster's steel flesh, the boy hesitates, fearing the loss of his equipment in a counterattack. With its free hand, the beast turns brutally and launches a colossal punch toward the protagonist's chest. With no other choice, Seo-yul abandons his weapon and retreats, activating his final trump card by summoning the labyrinth's own boss. In the center of the room, the giant zombie sprouts out of nowhere, stopping the orchard's punch in a jaw, dropping block of brute force. In a clash of giants, the undead creature sinks its teeth and claws into the red beast's hardened blood. Aware that sacrificing his strongest monster was worth it, the kid stealthily draws a second short sword. With the two giants locked in a deadly embrace, the boy finds the perfect weak spot on the invading creature's back. Overcome by pain, the orc roars to the dark sky of the domain, feeling the blade deep in its steel spine. In a grotesque scene, the zombie boss's head lolls, falling to the ground with its teeth still sunk into the prey's flesh. Instantly, the red panel screams a dire warning, confirming the defeat of his strongest minion and deactivating the troop revival bonus. Spitting pure hatred, the protagonist crushes the holographic screen, promising to return the favor for the permanent loss of his trump card. With a lethal stomp, the hero pushes off the wall with bloodshot eyes, ready to wipe the red monster off the face of the earth. As he lands from the wall, he smashes an invisible button strategically hidden on the smooth stone of the magic corridor. On the blue system, the steel rain alert pops up, and dozens of metal spikes fall from the ceiling, destroying the room. Covered by smoke, the red giant blocks some of the blades with its arm covered in hardened blood. On pure instinct, taking advantage of the smoke-induced blindness, Seo-yul crosses the hall at a surreal speed, holding his glowing spear. With a war cry, he thrusts directly into the exact hole of the previous wound to try and pierce the beast's heart. The clash of weapons sends the monster's body flying, skidding across the floor wet with purple blood. Without letting the prey breathe, the MC steps on another button, setting the worst trap in that specific room. From the ceiling, entire stone blocks filled with spikes plummet down like a steamroller on top of the dazed orcs. The disgusting crack of crushed bones echoes in the dungeon, silencing the murderous creature's fury for good. Panting, the hero confesses to having saved his best torture toys in that space reserved only for emergencies. Wiping the sweat from his forehead, he celebrates the success of the total massacre, proving the value of the gold coins spent on his contraptions. Suddenly, the labyrinth screen beeps frantically, pointing out a drastic error in the location's durability after the heavy brawl. The system throws it in his face that the entire room is about to collapse if the integrity drops another 2%. Ticked off, the boy calculates the hole in his budget, accounting for the death of his boss minion and the damage to the walls. Trying to find a sliver of consolation, the MC thinks about the profit and lowers his head, confused by a deep sound tearing through the silence. From the destroyed floor, the orc's mutant carcass flashes bright red, regenerating bone and tissue at a satanic speed. With its eyes completely white, the orc enters a berserker state, exploding in a destructive aura capable of imploding the room. Boiling with hatred for the red trash's stubbornness, the boy gives up on spending gold to fix that war zone. Evoking the release screen, he decides to send the mutant back to the real world and smash its face in the old courtyard. Outside, the buff senior evacuates the injured kids and ensures the area is clear of civilians, so as not to interfere with the duel. Worried, the big guy walks back to the courtyard, grumbling and trying to find the hole where the rookie dumped the monster. With a magical crack, the black portal opens, sucking the air from the courtyard and forcing the senior to take a step back. From the middle of the spatial tier, the hero jumps out, planting his boots on the clean floor and cracking his dirty knuckles. His eyes widening, the big fighter notices that the rookie's mana just appeared out of nowhere, without any environmental warning. Right after, the monstrous mass of the Crimson Orc plummets down, breaking the wooden floor with a brutal impact. Laughing hysterically in its insane mode, the creature readies its gigantic claws to dismember its targets in a fury. A crimson blur, the mutant shoots towards Seo Yol, raising its fist charged with imminent doom. With the crossed impact, our protagonist furrows his brow, shocked by the disproportionate power of the nearly finished monster. Feeling his body lock up on defense, he rejects a war of attrition tactic, accepting the colossal difference between their physical levels in the berserker phase. Smiling like a maniac, the kid notices an unreal lightness flowing through the body he's been grinding to dust for the past few months of hell. The pain of defending doesn't matter, as the weeks of pushing weights to the brink of insanity in the dojo have forged an unbreakable physical shield. With the orca's death blow locked on a spear, our MC feels power surging through his veins, even thinking his body might break into 1,000 pieces. Planting his feet on the ground, the young man smiles, because he can finally feel the results of his own training directly on his skin. The dagger's blade then shines with a red electrical energy, ready for the big counter. In a violent flash, the boy charges forward, clashing head-on with the gigantic creature. Surprisingly, the orc retreats, spitting blood after feeling the absurd weight of the blow. Full of swagger, the hero cracks a confident smile, stating that this fight is getting really fun. Again, the two collide in the center of the arena, creating an explosion of pure energy. Feeling the crushing pressure, the monster grits its teeth in a mix of pure rage and pain. Mocking the beast's face, the kid stares it down and asks if it's having fun with the beatdown too. Suddenly, the mutant's giant steel hand grabs the hunter's arm completely by surprise. Wasting no time, the boss spins its own body and hurls the human into the air using pure brute force. Like a rag doll, our young MC flies uncontrollably across the temple courtyard, ready to kiss the floor. With the violent impact, stones and debris fly everywhere in a very heavy fall. Catching his breath, the hunter notices the beast is still using its head and realizes the enemy's tactic to nullify sharp weapons. Suddenly, a dark shadow covers the boy, forcing him to look up at the imminent danger. In a monstrous leap, the orc tears up the stone floor, moving to finish off the fallen human. Like a red meteor, the mutant descends with its fists clenched towards our hero. In that exact millisecond, a very fast blur crosses the battlefield. Caught mid-air, the giant suffers a cutting impact, and its lethal advance is broken in mid-flight. Covered in blood, the buff senior yells, promising to buy time for his younger brother to find a real weapon. Brutally, the monster smashes through his partner's defense, raising a dense cloud of dust and destruction. Taking the blow to the chest, the big guy groans in pain, spitting more blood on the mat. Dashing away from the center of the fight, the MC announces that he's already solved the equipment problem. In a precise jump, he dives toward the wreckage, announcing he's just found the perfect weapon. Before him rests the magical and indestructible skull of the iron goal left over from training. With his eyes glowing with red mana, the boy figures out that the orc's clouded mind is the perfect opening to spend all his remaining energy. Completely covered in a killer aura, he swears to detonate that piece of bone in a single blow. Clenching his fist with absurd force, the hunter unleashes the ultimate punch on the bizarre structure. Immediately, the steel jawbone shatters, releasing the power core imprisoned within. Far away, the mutant beast continues its blind attacks while the senior tries to survive the boss's final roar. Suddenly, an explosion of energy sends the steel, blood orc flying and cancels the massacre. With a heavy thud, the creature rolls across the courtyard floor, completely knocked out by the new magic. The blue system screen then pings, confirming the acquisition of a unique and broken item called the demonic dagger. Observing the remains of the jawbone, the hero is thankful for the unexpected help from the shattered bone. Satisfied with the victory, the kid smiles in relief, stating he's more than ready for the next level of training. Nearby, the allied big guy is still on the ground, suffering from deep wounds. Recognizing the footsteps, the half-conscious partner mutters about the familiar voice and asks about the boy's condition. Quickly, the protagonist pulls the senior up by his clothes and tells the big guy to stay awake at all costs. Pulling his friend up from the ground, the hero lets out a laugh, saying the veteran is a tough nut to crack when it comes to cheating his final exit. With blurred vision, the giant smiles and finally recognizes his younger brother as the great savior. Playing dumb, our boy scoffs, asking who else would have handled the rescue there, and tells his partner to just lie back down. Finally, the medical team arrives in the destroyed courtyard, confirming that the whole mess has come to an end. The next day, the sun shines brightly, reflecting off the windows of the giant central administration building. At the entrance, a crowd of reporters pushes and shoves, setting up their cameras in absolute chaos. Pointing their phones, the media crowd screams hysterically upon noticing the arrival of the morning's most anticipated figure. Immediately, the journalists focus their spotlights on director Baek Jun-won of the Overcross Guild, flaunting his fancy suit. In shock, the media demands clear answers about the illegal transport of the monster on the city's busy streets. With calm steps, the old suit stops on the sidewalk and feigns a humble posture, apologizing to the victims of the chaos. Cynically, he justifies the screw-up by saying the orc had high scientific value, and so they tried to donate the creature under a calculated risk. To end the charade, the villain announces his full cooperation with the investigation and tries to slip away from the public focus. Suddenly, someone in the crowd points to the other side, shouting the name of the mission's true rescue agent. Changing targets, the media surrounds our MC, questioning how a simple D-rank hunter took down such a dangerous boss. In an attempt to protect his partner, his teammate pushes the microphones away, saying the interview can wait for their off hours. But the kid freezes in place with a sharp gaze, remembering the lack of action from his own federal department. In a firm voice, he brings up the responsibility of oversight, demanding to know why the agency never monitors these large guilds. Desperate at his friend's suicidal sincerity, the veteran whispers, begging for the love of all that is holy for the boy to ignore the cameras. To make matters worse, an annoying streamer accuses the hero of being an influencer paid by rival guilds to post fake news live. Sighing with intense hatred, the young man mutters about the filth and cowardly tricks the rich use to clean up their own messes. With his back to his colleague, he says he'll be back in a second, and goes after the source of the problem. Grabbing the cocky streamer's microphone, our young MC just confirms if that live stream is really happening in real time. With a chilling gaze, the boy explains the reason for the pause, stating that the whole world needs to hear the truth in that very second. Consumed by fury, he yells at the camera, asking if the feeling of getting paid to clean up someone else's trash is good. Pointing his finger right in director Baek's face, the MC denounces live on air that the guilds make the mess, and the rescue team always gets the worst of it. Immediately, a deadly silence falls over the entire sidewalk as the crowd absorbs the raw, unfiltered bombshell. Without letting his guard down, the hero flashes a smile of pure mockery, demanding direct confirmation from the lying director. Completely exposed to ridicule, the old suit grits his teeth, containing the absurd rage bubbling in the veins of his neck. At the peak of desperation, his coworker grabs the kid by the hair, dragging him away from the media. Bowing deeply, the veteran apologizes to the crowd, making up a flimsy excuse that the rookie is delirious due to illness. Away from the flashes, the guild executive just confirms with his assistant the exact identity of that insolent brat. With a malicious grin splitting his face, the director agrees that the kid acts like a little puppy, blind to danger. Releasing a red aura of pure killing intent, Baek coldly orders his subordinate to crush that bastard without mercy. Hours later, the blue plaque of the headquarters conference room glows silently and tensely in the empty hallway. Inside, the top officials watch with concern the viral video of our MC humiliating the elite on the internet. On the screen, a bureaucrat shows the absurd engagement of the clip, which exploded in every newspaper in the country at a bizarre speed. Running a hand over his tired face, the head of rescue admits the agent's reckless words, but deems the punishment suggested by the guilds a colossal exaggeration. At the meeting table, the big shots debate the major guild's fault, while one points out that the manipulated videos have earned the MC a lot of praise. Losing patience, another suit states that the manipulation doesn't matter since the entire nation is only talking about this on the internet. Curtain direct, the head of surveillance decrees that the boy must be punished for his audacity. Indignant, the first bureaucrat questions if the punishment shouldn't fall on Overcross, since the administration handled the crisis poorly. With a violent thud, a heavy fist smashes the table, silencing everyone in the room. Boiling with rage, the chief yells at Lee Han, asking if the guy has lost his mind completely. To cut the argument short, a third official demands the two of them stop their childish show. Bringing facts to the table, the leader reminds them that Assistant CO Yol's rescue rate recently hit 100%. Despite their dependence on the major guilds, the kid has become too valuable an asset for the agency to simply discard. With a cup in his hand, the bearded director asks if anyone has a better plan to counter the guild's cowardly move. Aware of the pressure, Director Park Gwang-soo decides the administration needs to respond in a manner befitting the situation. Outside, the luxurious headquarters hallway reflects the suspense of the moment. 3 sharp knocks echo on the wooden door until a deep voice authorizes entry. Quickly, our MC enters the big boss's room with a completely neutral expression. Straight to the point, the boy asks why he was summoned so suddenly by the directorate. Pointing to the sofa, the bearded director tells the kid to sit before they start the serious talk. With a heavy tone, the big boss warns that the subject of this meeting is of extreme importance. On the table, A cup of hot tea breaks the suffocating tension of the room a little. In a strange atmosphere, the old man asks if the drink is good, and the boy jokes about opening a coffee shop. With a slight smile, the bureaucrat thanks him for the compliment but soon warns that he has a very specific curiosity in mind. Without beating around the bush, he questions what rank the hero thinks he would get if he readed the official level test now. With another sip of tea, our MC admits he doesn't know the exact level but is sure he has surpassed D rank. Satisfied with the sincere answer, the old-timer lays it on him that the boy's recent achievements don't match such a low level. Then, the director gets real, saying the agency worked hard to shut down the false rumors created by envious parties. From the tone of the conversation, the kid senses the blackmail and wonders if he should reveal his hidden powers in exchange for their support. Analyzing his opponent, the boy remembers that this director is a dangerous political fox and very experienced in his position. At that same moment, his old boss advice rings in his mind, warning that trying to be clever here would be pure foolishness. As he places the cup on the saucer, the hero hesitates for a second, considering spilling the secret of the magic labyrinth. To cut the suspense, the old man raises his hand and assures him he doesn't want to know the origin of the boy's new power. Curtly, the bearded man focuses on what matters and declares that the administration really needs that brute force. Without any sugarcoating, the big shot drops the bomb, announcing he's shipping the protagonist straight to the countryside. Outside, the sunset paints the giant agency building orange, ending the workday. In the hallways, the suits comment that the investigation wrapped up super fast thanks to the surveillance team. Walking side by side, Chief An asks the villain from Overcross his opinion on the audacious Seo Yol. Full of arrogance, the platinum-haired director returns the question, wanting to know the reason for so much interest in a mere pawn. With his eyes gleaming with hatred, Bake confesses that he hates insects buzzing around and obstructing his view. Taunting his partner, Anne insinuates that this was the reason for the exile. But the villain just says he wanted to give the rookie a reality check. Suddenly, the suit notices a familiar figure and questions if the two are close friends. Shocked by the coincidence, Chief An freezes mid-corridor upon coming face to face with the very target of their gossip. Leaning against the wall with his hands in his pockets, our MC glares at the rich guys with a sharp, ironic look. Forcing a sadistic smile, the villain scoffs that fate loves to bring them together and throws the so-called exile to the countryside in his face. Worried about the commotion, Chief An tries to cut the conversation short and gets the platinum-haired man's attention. Pointing a finger shamelessly, the kid accuses the suited trash of persecution, since the transfer paperwork hasn't even been processed yet. With a mocking smile, the hero tells his enemy not to celebrate too much, as the trip only lasts 6 short months. Gritting his teeth in rage, the old platinum-haired man is disgusted by the audacious boy's unwavering optimism. Curious about the rules, the boy throws out some bait, commenting that transfers like this only happen for section chiefs and above. Believing he's won the argument, the villain tells the young man to face the reality of his demotion without crying. Celebrating his mental victory, our young MC rubs it in their faces that he just got promoted 2 levels, earning the position of assistant manager. As if they've been hit with a sledgehammer, the 2 bureaucrats' eyes go wide in a state of pure shock. Taunting them hard, the hero feigns surprise at the old man's funeral expression as he stammers out a super fake congratulations. Unable to swallow the defeat, the platinum-haired man mutters that the agency has become a mess to be promoting employees so suddenly. Without missing a beat, our boy claims that the leadership simply recognizes talent and makes fun of the villain's stunned face. Boiling with pure hatred, the rivals' magical auras explode in the hallway, creating a crushing pressure. To avoid disaster, a colleague from Rescue grabs the hero's shoulder and demands that the trashy director leave at once. Disguising his aggressive outburst, the murderous old man retracts his magic and claims he just had a silly distraction. With a hand on the boy's shoulder, his teammate asks them to return to work peacefully. Before parting ways, the villain raises a finger, offering one last piece of advice in a tone of pure threat. Full of swagger, the suit claims that the kid's attempt to mess with him was a fatal mistake. Ignoring the barking, the protagonist walks calmly and declares that the priority of saving lives remains the same in any region. Through the glass windows, the young man observes the big city, reflecting on the next steps of his mission. Behind him, Director Bake hears his subordinate call his name in a voice trembling with fear. In a fit of blind rage, the villain punches the wall with brutal force, showing his true psychopathic face. From the violent impact, the corridor's stone cracks, proving that the mercenary boss's patience has finally snapped. Growling like a dog, the platinum-haired man curses those damn insects that refuse to be crushed. Far from the commotion, the plaque on Director Park Kwang-soo's door glows, indicating the friendly meeting continues. Observing the horizon through the giant window, the experienced bearded man sips his tea, calculating the next move on the political chessboard. To reassure the rookie, he explains that the trip seems like a demotion but is just a temporary protection strategy. As a condition, the old man says the boy needs to crush the region's monsters to become untouchable by the capital's guilds. In absolute silence, the hero lowers his head, absorbing the absurd weight of the responsibility on his shoulders. Noticing the mood, the director asks if something is bothering the boy, who quickly apologizes for being distracted. Setting the dishes aside, the kid expresses his gratitude for the support but says he needs to make one last audacious request before he leaves. With his eyes full of determination, our protagonist demands to be sent to the most dangerous and chaotic place on the map. Pausing his cup mid-air, the bearded director hides his perplexity at such suicidal audacity. In the old fox's mind, it's proven that this rescue kid is an untamable and fearless beast. With everything decided, the hero walks through the illuminated lobby, ready to shred the worst dangers of the countryside. Shocked by the computer screen, his colleague with glasses freaks out seeing Seo Yul's promotion to assistant manager in a single day, and his direct transfer to the countryside. When asked about the crazy news, the section chief calmly replies that he obviously already knew about this bombshell. In a tone of pure desperation, the Four Eyes asks how the squad will handle rescues without the prodigy rookie, but the veteran just tells the team to keep working as usual. After the chief leaves, the employee picks up his phone, grumbling that the hero got a week off and highly doubts anyone would go to a company dinner on their day off. To the suit's surprise, the call connects super fast, and the protagonist's voice flatly states that he's very busy at the moment. Not understanding at all, the colleague hears the MC say he needs to finish some late homework as the view focuses on a bizarre, illuminated portal in the middle of the woods. Fully equipped in military tactical gear, our boy confirms the dangerous job, staring at the edge of a cliff, facing a monstrous army. With a sly smile on his face, the hero says on the radio that the task is simply to annihilate a giant wasp nest, while the blue screen marks a strict 72-hour deadline for the Queen's takedown. Facing the sinister forest, our MC says over the radio that he came to finish some late homework, leaving his colleague confused. With his gaze fixed on the black cloud of insects in the sky, he confirms the tough-as-nails mission. On the blue screen, the system displays the mission to exterminate the Queen with a strict deadline of 3 days. Without much patience, the boy hangs up on the veteran, telling him to call back later. Without taking his focus off the objective, the hunter analyzes the deadline and thinks he actually got to the nest pretty quickly. Facing the multitude of insects, the hero notices that the monsters have already started producing an army. With his spear charged with blue lightning, the kid decides that none of it matters as long as he can move. In a powerful leap, the magic weapon comes down, smashing everything and crushing the first guards. With his eyes glowing intensely, the electric aura takes over the boy's body. In a sequence of invisible attacks, the blade cuts through the wind with full force. With each swift blow, our hero clears the path with brute strength. Suddenly, the hunter notices a strange pattern and questions if the Queen has already manufactured these elite troops. Like streaking missiles, the so-called speed bees shoot directly at the invader. Far from the heavy, bullet-like stingers, the boy deduces that the boss spent a lot of energy to create these ahead of time. Pure magic sprouts in our MC's hand, confirming that standing still there will result in a deadly encirclement. Before the worst can happen, the hunter conjures a giant black sphere in the middle of the chaos. Immediately, the dark portal pulls the flying beasts in with an absurd gravity. By his mental calculations, the kid knows he can handle the army using only the traps in his labyrinth. In mid-air, the hero concludes he needs to reach the main nest by taking advantage of the opening. In a brutal flash, the giant spear emits a destructive reddish aura. From the impact of the energy, the bees lose their balance and are torn apart in the shock. Dashing forward, the protagonist advances without stopping amidst the falling corpses. Suddenly, the boy's eyes focus on the change in behavior of the beasts on the ground. At the same moment, his intuition screams, warning him that the Great Queen has changed her tactic. Deep inside, the giant and terrifying monarch is already observing the invader very cautiously. Full of mockery, our MC feels honored that the boss is using her own tiny brain to try and stop him. From a recent memory, the young man remembers his time in the office where he came up with a new tactic. As the blue system warns that reviving allied monsters is impossible due to a lack of funds, all that's left is to use the one bizarre backup plan the hunter prepared. In the blink of an eye, the labyrinth screen glows, authorizing immediate entry into his personal dungeon. Using the black hole, the hero sucks in only the minimum number of monsters to prepare the ambush. In a matter of milliseconds, the panel signals the exit from the labyrinth, and the boy's boots touch the ground. Returning to the real world, the hunter leaps through the air, surrounded by energy. With total focus, the kid mentally screams to utilize the brute force of his spear. With a colossal boom, the magic explodes, creating a devastating shockwave in the scenery. Calmly, the young man lands on the destroyed ground, ignoring the magic dust. With the weapon resting on his shoulder, our young MC taunts the Queen, telling the coward to come out of hiding. From the shadows of the cave, the supreme monstrosity crawls out, revealing its absurd size. In the hero's sights, the monarch's bizarre face makes the atmosphere heavy with the presence of the three-eyed beast. Completely calm, our boy faces the dungeon boss without blinking. From the intense chemical smell in the air, the hunter questions if the creature wants to recall its flying troops. Suddenly, a gigantic shadow crosses the sky, falling directly behind the protagonist. Thanks to the system, his sixth sense screams, and the hero dodges the fatal blow that smashes the ground. It's clear that the chemical signal was used to summon the hive's supreme bodyguard. At a terrifying speed, the lethal beast nicknamed Wing Whip tears through the wind for an attack. Behind his barrier, the hero scoffs at the boss for summoning a creature that eats twice as much. By tactical logic, the appearance of this elite guard confirms the monarch's fear. With a deadly sphere in hand, the boy warns that taking out the queen will be a piece of cake after he cleans up this lackey. Furious at the threat, the mutant insect roars, ready to shred the human. Wasting no time, the protagonist throws the black hole directly at the flying enemy. Dashing forward, the kid takes advantage of the opening, wanting to finish off the boss once and for all. With a deafening screech, the winged creature blocks the MC's path in mid-air. In a brutal clash, the beast's green scythe meets the hunter's spear shaft head-on. Instantly, a massive shockwave explodes, pushing both fighters back. Retreating to the sky, the monster adjusts its wings and prepares for the next lethal dive. Blinded by rage, our hero grits his teeth, cursing the damned beast's stubbornness. It's obvious the mutant ripped off its own arm to avoid being sucked in by the dark magic. In shock at its pure strength, the young man questions the insane power of those fast wings. In a frantic exchange, the MC defends against the creature's continuous and merciless attacks. With the sphere ready once again, the hunter admits his irritation but warns that fighting now is useless. Aware of its fate, the black hole expands, swallowing everything around it in an instant. Straight into another dimension, the queen and her servant plummet into the stone hall of the labyrinth. On the hard floor of the domain, the pair of beasts tries to make sense of the new, enclosed scenery. Safe in his own territory, the MC confesses that the plan has changed but likes the idea of being alone with his prey. Eye to eye, the hero gives a friendly warning to the beast not to move irresponsibly. Focused on the battle, the boy comments on the recent renovation of the place, but the beast charges forward, not caring. Accepting his own madness, the hunter laughs for trying to chat with irrational monsters. Calmly, the boy's finger touches the floating panel, activating the hidden mechanism. In the system, the steel rain warning pops up and the winged monster freezes, sensing the mortal danger. From the ceiling, hundreds of metal spikes plummet, forcing the lackey to protect the queen with its own wings. Impressed with the defense, the MC praises the utility of those giant wings protecting their master. Full of irony, the hero lays down the harsh reality, warning that the arrows don't just fall from the ceiling. Lethal blades tear through the air from the sides, mercilessly piercing the elite beast's body. With the monsters fallen and pierced, the kid repeats that resisting in here is a total waste of time. In a final explosion of flames and lethal traps, the hunter celebrates the investment of coins spent to annihilate the beasts. With the elite guard eliminated, our MC stares into the queen's red eyes and warns that her ultimate weapon is history. Covered in an aura of power, the hero flashes a sly smile and questions if it's now finally just the two of them left for the final showdown.